Good noon everyone, welcome back to your beloved Atomic Chess speedrun. Atomic Chess is one of the most famous available variants on chess.com. Please feel free to pause the video to read the rules in case you have never heard of the variant. And without any further ado, let's get into today's content. First game we get a variant beginner, but he is actually a whopping 2500 rated blitz player. I am so dead. Knight f3. f6 preventing the knight from approaching my position. c3. So the downside of knight f3 first move is that you are trapping your own f-pawn, which is a pawn next to the king and has the ability to bring the king along as it is taken down. Knight h6. Threatening knight g4 attacking the f-pawn. Queen a4. Very aggressive. That threatens to explode my king. c6. Blocking with the knight doesn't seem like a good idea as his c-pawn has already prevented the c6 knight from advancing forward. Queen e4. Again with the king threat, e6. Knight a3. That blunders a queen. Knight g4. Threatening to capture on f2 exploding the king. King d1 is kinda forced. Knight e3 check. By centralizing his queen too early into the game, he basically gave me a lot of free squares in the center of the board. Any captures happening near his queen are basically taking the woman along with it, which leads to this situation right now that he has to sacrifice his queen to save his king. Never mind. Knight takes f1. Kaboom. That was such a letdown from a 2500 rated blitz opponent. You can say he's not familiar with the variant yet, but that is not a good excuse to consistently moving the queen in the early game. Second game, let's go. Second game is a low rated opponent, knight f3. Normally I play d4 as first move, but knight f3 is more aggressive and can win the game in a few moves if the opponent makes a mistake. f6. Knight c3. c6. This guy knows what he's doing. e4. e5. d4. Oh no, my horsey. Didn't happen. Now it's getting very confusing. I'll capture this way. Oh no, my horsey. This guy just doesn't blunder. Okay, now I'm genuinely scared, because not only my knights failed to bring back a quick win, now they are under threat of both getting pinned by my opponent's bishop. Bishop f4. Sacrificing my bishop to get rid of his very dangerous bishop on g4, also opening up the diagonal for my queen to use in the future. Kaboom. I'll say worth it. e5. This pawn is now basically a passed pawn, because he cannot take it as it will. Never mind. That blunders a king. Queen e2 check. This is the sole reason why I wanted to remove that light bishop so badly. Because had that bishop still alive, bishop e6 would have been able to block the check and there is nothing I can do. This game could have been a lot more difficult had my opponent not been greedy for that one piece advantage. Fourth game, let's go. Third game was a free win due to my opponent making a mistake early on, but fourth game I got the same opponent again. This guy is coming back for vengeance as we're switching colors. d4, d5, queen d3. Very aggressive. Knight f6. As I said in the first game, developing the queen first is very risky as it gives your opponent a lot of safe squares around your queen, so the best thing to do is to keep your queen on the side of the board and treat her like a more flexible bishop instead of craving for the active center. My opponent knows it. Queen e7 is exploding my king. c5. Pawn trade. I have to block with my queen. Bishop f4. I can trade queens now, but I don't want to trade and give my opponent a move. Queen b4 check instead. It would be better if my opponent makes the trade, and then I get a move. Or he can sacrifice 8 points of materials instead. Knight e4 first. Threatening knight takes f2. f3. Knight d2. Threatening knight takes f1, and that bishop is actually trapped. King d1 is kinda forced. Okay, I don't think there is much I can do anymore. Kaboom. Trade and I'm up a bishop. Didn't happen. I should have traded my bishop for his knight here. That would have secured a very fast win for me. But for some very unknown reason, my ancient eyeballs just could not see my own bishop on f8. f6 instead. Kaboom. And we're back to equal materials. e5. But I have more active pieces though. e4. a6. Preventing bishop b5. He takes d5. b5. Preventing bishop c4, I don't want to trade my strong knight with his bishop. c4. b4. c5 b3 ab3 king d8. Bishop c4. So from this point onward, I was playing the game under some serious time pressure, so now even though there is bishop takes c5 exploding his bishop along with the pawn and I have an easy win, I went for knight takes c4 instead. Which is a bad move in any ways you look at it. King pawn king pawn king pawn king pawn. King a1. Okay, at least now I have immobilized his king. Any check now is basically checkmate. King c7. My king has to survive though, somehow I've moved from a more active position into a lesser active one. Knight f2. Bishop lift. Knight e4. Okay, I didn't want to go king c6 because I wanted to let him play c6 opening up my bishop for a checkmate in one. But at this rate he is obviously aiming for a checkmate at my king instead of focusing on advancing the pawn. King c6. I'll move my king to safety, and the safety zone may not be what you are thinking about. His rook is coming. Rook b8. Rook b1 is checkmate in one, and I should have played this much earlier than now. Time pressure got the better of me. Rook d6 check. King b5. My king is blocking my rook, but no worries, he has to keep checking. Knight c3 check. King c4. Rook d4 check. King b3. He cannot take my pawn and explode my king because that will also explode his king. The variant physically prevents that from happening. Rook b4 check. King to b2. So most people know that the kings can touch in this variant, but what the rules didn't tell you, is that when the kings touch, neither opponent can make a checkmate or capture the opponent's king, as that will also explode their own king. Therefore it is physically impossible for my opponent to even give a check now. From this point we'll play the game without the kings. Rook a4. A trade would have made a draw, but Rook a4 has just removed his rook's ability to attack my king. King c1. There is no check from his rook. Knight e2 check. King d2. Ha! Absolutely no more check. A simple mistake putting his pieces too far away from each other. And now rook b1 is a simple checkmate in one. Rook b4 blocking the way. I'm not blundering again, bishop takes c4. Kaboom. Knight d4. Rook b1. Checkmate in one. Atomic chess speed run today. 400% win rate.